Welcome back to my first ever zoo, where we're continuing our mission to fix the questionable building decisions made by past Eevee. We've already given the Aldabra giant tortoise, timberwolves, and common warthogs some much needed makeovers, and today we're moving on to another habitat that desperately needs some attention. And that is, we're tackling the Baird's Tapir. Let's see what we can do with this old habitat. So this is the habitat in question. I'm not gonna lie, I'm not really sure what I was thinking. We've got this lumpy terrain, a tiny bit of water that looks like an absolute death trap, and to top it all off, the Tapirs seem to spend half their time brawling. So yeah, I think it's safe to say this one needs some work. So as usual, first things first, we're clearing absolutely everything out. I'm gonna flatten the terrain and start again from scratch. Now I know I said at the beginning of this series that I wanted to keep the habitats roughly the same size, and I'm still trying to stick to that rule, but this habitat just had a little bit of wasted space behind it. And when I started planning what I wanted, I said, I'm gonna use that space. You guys can't stop me. My plan is to create a 3-tiered habitat. The lowest section at the front will be a nice little like swimming pool for them. It's gonna give the guests a really nice view of the Tapirs while they're swimming. And then as we move further back, the terrain will gradually rise. That way the Tapirs have different levels to explore, but more importantly, guests standing on the ground won't be staring at a flat surface. I want this habitat to feel layered without blocking the view of the animals. Tapir can spend a large part of their day in the water, and when they're swimming they can actually use their little prehensile snout like a snorkel. So I'm building them a swimming pool because they deserve it, okay? Now for the hard shelter, not doing anything crazy, I kind of just wanted it to blend in with the barrier, the border. I wanted the same kind of look to it, so when you add all the foliage it just blends into the background so you can't even see it. While I'm working on this though, let's talk about the animals themselves. Baird's tapir are an endangered species native to Central America. They're actually the largest land mammal in Central America. They've got that unmistakable little trunk-like snout which they use to grab vegetation and explore their surroundings. And although they look quite chunky and slow-moving, they're actually very capable animals. They're excellent swimmers, can move surprisingly quickly when they need to, and are perfectly adapt into navigating dense forests. Unfortunately, their biggest threat is habitat loss. Deforestation is destroying large areas of the woodland and rainforest they rely on, while hunting is also a problem in some areas. So protecting the forests is incredibly important for the future of this species. And now my favorite time, rock time. I genuinely don't think I know how to build a habitat without filling it with rocks. For this habitat, I'm using the dynamic rocks to create a more natural formation around the different levels, and I have to admit, it took me embarrassingly long to realize what dynamic meant in the rock option. For anyone that doesn't know, the moss stays on top of the rock no matter which way you rotate it. So yeah, that's embarrassing that it took me that long to figure out. I want the transition in this habitat between the levels to feel a little bit more natural rather than just like stacks of dirt, and rocks definitely help with that. So if you're ever like looking at your habitat and you're like, I just don't like how the terrain looks sloping like that. Rocks fix everything. And now it's time for what might be my favorite part of the entire build, jungle time. I just fill in the habitat with dense foliage. That's pretty much all I'm doing. So I'm going tall trees in the back, smaller at the front. I also want to make sure I'm not completely covering the habitat. As much as they do love dense foliage, I want the guests to be able to see them. So there's no point in me spending ages creating a beautiful habitat if the guests can't actually find the animals amongst the 400 plants I've put in there. Although, let's be honest, I'd be more than happy to put 400 plants in there. I think one of the biggest difference between my old builds and my newer ones is how much I think about creating a natural environment rather than simply filling the welfare requirements. I want the habitat to feel like somewhere the animal could actually belong. Also, tapirs play an important role in their ecosystem because they're really good seed dispersers. Because they eat such a varied diet and travel around while foraging, they help spread seeds throughout the forest. So they're not just living in these environments, they're actually helping shape them. Now that the habitat itself is pretty much finished, I'm moving on to the front. I don't want the guests to feel like they're standing miles away from the glass viewing area, so I'm adding plenty of decoration around the entrance. And by decoration, I mean more plants, because apparently I haven't planted enough already. And I'm also adding a fence around the front to make the transition from the guest path to the habitat feel a little bit more natural. And this time, you're not going to believe it, I remembered the education board. We're officially learning from our mistakes. No forgetting the education board, no forgetting the speaker. Past Eevee would be proud. While I'm working around this area, I suddenly remembered something from 2 episodes ago, the timber wolves, specifically the fact that I completely forgot to give them running water. So I'm gonna go back and fix my little whoopsie. The waterfall may not have been functioning before, but today we're finally putting it right. I'm sorry, timber wolves, you deserve better, and there we go. They finally have their running water. Hopefully they can forgive me for making them wait this long. And just when I thought everything was going smoothly, what's that? Another escaped animal? I wonder who it could possibly be this time. Oh no. No, it's RJ. The little pup in the saltwater crocodile habitat. This is literally worst case scenario. Why is it always the dangerous animals? Thankfully, the staff managed to get him back under control and RJ is safely returned to the habitat with the rest of his pack. Crisis averted. For now. And then, amongst all that chaos, I get some very exciting news. We have a baby Tapir. Look at him, what a sweet little guy. Yodel. I'm pretty sure I butchered that. He's absolutely adorable. And because he's a baby Tapir, he's covered in those beautiful little white spots and stripes. That pattern actually helps camouflage Tapir calves in the dappled light of the forest. And for about 5 minutes, everything was wonderful. Until I realized Yodel had escaped. He hasn't even been alive for a full day and he's already decided that this habitat isn't good enough for him. Where's he gone? To knock over a bin! And now he's helping himself to the guests' rubbish. Of course he is. This is honestly the most Planet Zoo thing that could possibly happen. Thankfully, the vet came to the rescue, and I have to say, incredible aim! They managed to tranquilize this tiny troublemaker right in the middle of a crowd. And after his little adventure, Yaddle is safely returned to his mum and dad. Hopefully he'll stay inside the habitat this time, although knowing my zoo, probably not. But now, we've reached the moment you've all been waiting for. The before, and here's the after. Honestly, I absolutely love it. We've got 3 different levels, a large swimming area, dense jungle foliage, natural rock formations, a wooden shelter, and a much better viewing area for the guests. And most importantly, I think the tapirs finally have a habitat that suits them. It feels lush, natural, and full of things for them to explore. And considering what we started with, I think that's a pretty big improvement. So what do you guys think? Did I manage to give the Bairds tapir a habitat they deserved? And do you think this is one of the better makeovers we've done so far? Let me know down in the comments because I'd love to hear what you'd think. We've still got plenty of habitats left in the zoo, so this makeover journey is far from over. And if you don't want to miss out on the next episode, make sure you subscribe and come along as we continue transforming my very first zoo into a zoo that I'm actually proud of. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. And for the next one, let's just say we're gonna need a lot of space. Maybe an elephant-sized space? I'll see yous then.